We're all good. Okay. So I am looking at the participant surveys. You guys are anonymous mode, and I can see where people are from. And welcome. Thanks for coming. And I hope you get something out of this webinar. And we have people from all over. And I want to just show you that if you're not sure how GeoGebra works, you can, for instance, just like circle with center, you can just draw a picture. You can go all the way down and put more tools. You can draw in the pen. And we have, you can draw a face or whatever. But anyways, you can also use the geometry tools to create your own or construct a face as well. This just lets me know, this is a entrance survey just to see where you're at in this, how much you know about GeoGebra. So keep filling this out for you guys who are just joining. Go to the chat and click on the survey. You can also tell us in the survey where you're from, and that's good stuff here. So go ahead and keep working on that, and then we'll get into the next section. So I just wanted to show you using GeoGebra Classroom. Again, it's a brand new interface, and these live lessons are going to be really helpful for us who are going to be continuing to do some virtual teaching coming in the fall as well. So fun pictures you guys are showing in the tasks, and that's fun. Good stuff. Okay, let's go on. You guys can continue to work on those tasks, but I want to just give you an overall just a tour of GeoGebra. And so let's go to my slides over here. And I want to just tell you, before we get into some quarter projects, I want to add in a, let's see, let's go here, make this bigger, and I will, let's just add in GeoGebra. So go to GeoGebra.org, GeoGebra.org. And if you've never gone to GeoGebra before, go to GeoGebra.org, and we have our students create an account.
Can you share your screen again? When you went to the other window, it stopped sharing your screen. Sorry, I don't know why, but.
That's strange.
Okay, thanks. You got it.
Okay, great. And so in here, if you don't know how to use GeoGebra at all, you can always just click on Classroom Resources and scroll down to the Math Web. And since it's a geometry webinar, let's go to geometry, and I just want to show you how you can just find someone's work and you can use it. GeoGebra is a global community, and we share our stuff that we make. So for instance, here's Dwayne's work. He does a lot of great stuff. This is a series of applets about lines and angles for 10 to 12-year-old students, but you could use something like this even in a 12th grade, like a high school math class, and just copy and paste in for your students to use. So that would be one thing that you could do as a new user of GeoGebra, is just go to the web, the Math Web, and just find some applets that other teachers have used. You can also search Classroom Resources up here. And if you know of someone who creates a lot of good work, like Tim Brzezinski, we'll type his name in here and enter, and you'll find all of his resources that he's published. And you can just click on whatever you want and then assign that to your class. You can also, if you want to use GeoGebra Classroom for this interactive environment, you can then press create class and have students do that. So just wanted to show you what is possible if you don't want to create your own stuff. But for now, I want to go into the first quarter project, and I'm going to go through our quarter projects to show you some ways where we have our students have some good memories in math class. And the first quarter project is on learning GeoGebra. The goals of this project are to get students familiar with GeoGebra, for students to know how to log in, how to save and send a link of their applet, have fun, and then learn some geometry concepts, including angle relationships. And so before even introducing this project, I put tape on the floors in my classroom. So I create some dance floors in the classroom. The students don't know why. It looks fun, and I tell them it will be fun. We'll do some dance transversal, and I have about 9 or 10 of these squares, depending on the number of students I have. So about 3 students per square. And I tell them, in this project, you guys are going to be creating your own dance floor in GeoGebra. So let's do that right now. So let's go ahead and go to GeoGebraorg. And again, I have, this would be the first time our students would be creating their account for this project. And I would say, you know, sign in with GeoGebra with your Google account, put your first name, first initial of your last name. And then let's go to the 3x3 squares, or the 9 squares up in the right, upper right corner. And because this is a geometry class, I want them to hit the geometry, click on the geometry app. There are lots of apps in GeoGebra. Let's go to the geometry app. The geometry app will give you an access to the algebra calculator and geometry tools. So let's do this thing. So to do it, we are going to, I'll have students, I'll go through this with students at first. I'll have let's get this, show the grid and major grid lines. So we want to create something that's going to look pretty nice. Let's go to my project. So here's the project, and this is all linked in to the file that will give you the link at the end. And this is just a GeoGebra file. This is our first geometry project, and in it there are 8 tasks. This is Mark Shaplesky's wonderful idea of getting our students to learn about GeoGebra. And so that is the actual project. And then here's an example that I would show the students real quickly about what theirs should look like at the end. And it should look nice and neat. They should be doing 8 tasks that let them learn a little more about GeoGebra. I'm going to see their file because they're going to share it with me. And then I'm going to play around with each object to make sure that it is interactive and that it was constructed correctly. And so this is, we're just going to do, we're going to right now make a dance floor. So let's go ahead and do number 7 together. And so again, we're in GeoGebra in the geometry app. In the geometry app, we went over to the right where there's a tool or the settings icon, and we pressed show grid, major grid lines. Okay, so we're going to just get it organized right now for our students. So create a horizontal line and then go to move. And then basic tools, we're going to go to more. And under the more, I am going to then go down, and we want to construct a parallel line. So I'm going to click on a lattice point. So I'm going to click on construct perpendicular, I'm going to click on parallel line. I'm going to click on a lattice point, and then I'm going to click on that horizontal line. Then I'll click on another lattice point and click on a horizontal line. So this is a quick way to create nice organized method. You want to keep pressing the move or the arrow key so that you can now move around in your construction. Okay, so we have the chat. You guys can write down any questions you have or comments. I'm going to continue to look at the chat and see if you guys have asked any questions with it. So great to hear. So all of the files that I have are in this creating memorable geometry moments file that this is my slide presentation. It's just in GeoGebra, and I will share this link with you at the end. So all of this information that you see on my screen will be shared with you, so you have access to everything that we are using. So great to hear from Brazil. Excellent. Welcome. And let's see. Great. Okay, so yeah, all the projects will be shared. Keep asking questions. I'll get your chats like about a minute after you guys have written them out. So just if you have questions, concerns, just let me know. So again, here is the example that I looked at. And so we are back to our construction. We are going to just do a couple of things so that you guys can get to know GeoGebra a little more for you have not been using it or maybe never used it. I'm going down all the way to text. So in media, text, and then I'm going to click above the line AB. And when I click above there, I'm going to just type in my first and last name. So I'll type in Elizabeth and then Moslick. And I want to have students have opportunities to have fun and be creative and show me a little about who they are. This is our first project of the year. I don't really know the students at this point, so I want them to let me know more about them. So I'm back on the pointer, the move. I'm clicking on my name. I'm going to right click and go to settings. And I am going to just play around with the picture. So I'm going to go text. I'm going to make it bigger. So instead of small, I'll go to large. Oh, maybe I want it even bigger. So how about very large? And then color, let's go with like a purple. Okay, so they can have fun. Let me know what their favorite color is, and then just make it big so I know who they are. Then I would just show them some simple tools. And this is a quarter project. And my philosophy with quarter projects is that students should be treating this like they're one of my workers. I am their boss. And so if they have a question, they should ask their coworkers first. So I request that they talk to about 2 to 3 students first, and then ask me questions if those students couldn't help. So here we go. So I am looking to see who's here from Peru, from Alberta, Canada, from Mexico. Excellent. Welcome you all. Again, we're about a minute late with this chat in YouTube and with our recording. So let's actually make a dance square. So let's say we're at number 7. So I want students to label their each of their tasks. So I'm going to go down to media, text, and I'm going to just click in here and put in number 7. I'm going to make it bold and bigger. So I am going to then make sure I'm at the arrow key or the pointer. I'm going to right click on the 7, go to settings, and then text, I'm going to make it big. How about large? And then I'll click out of there and I'll just put this in position. So we're making our dance square. So to make a dance square, I need 2 parallel lines. So I'm going to create a line first. So click on 2 places, a point and then another point, and then go to the move or the pointer. The pointer is either up at the top here, or sometimes it shows up down here. And then I am going to construct a parallel line. So under construct, hit parallel line. And just click a point or in a point below point F. And then I'm going to click on the line FG. And that has now created a parallel line. I am going to now go back to the pointer. Now I need to have 2 points to create a line segment. So I'm going to click on point, and I'm going to click on just an area over here, and then go back to move. Now I'll go to the segment, and I want to not have it, I want a dance floor, which is not continuously forever. So we want to just create a segment. So I went to segment, and I'm going to click on F and then click on G. Then I'm going to click on H, then I'm going to click on I. And then I'll go to move, the pointer. And I want to hide the line. You don't want to delete it, you want to hide it. So go ahead and right click, go to settings, and then uncheck show object. We're going to do the same thing here. So we want to hide that line. So unclick show object. So we're not deleting the line, we're just not showing it. If you want to, it's kind of fun. Tim actually showed me this. I never saw this before, but in settings, you can go to style and the decoration. You can decorate those lines with the parallel symbol, which is a fun and a really helpful thing to know. So things I'm learning all the time is awesome. So let's go ahead and now create our transversal. So we have here a point and point. So I'm on line, point and point, and then I'm going to go to move. I now need a line segment. So I'll go to segment, go and connect K to J, and then we'll go back to move and we'll hide the line. So again, right click and settings and unclick show object. So we have just made our dance square. And so that's kind of fun, but now we want our students to measure the angles. So I'll just do a couple of them for time's sake, but if I'm gonna measure an angle, I need a vertex and I don't have a vertex point. So I'm gonna go back to the pointer key and I need to find that intersection point. So to find the intersection point, you can scroll all the way down into your tools and I'm gonna click on more. Once you do that, go and find the category where it says points and click on intersect. We're going to click on line segment FG and line segment JK, and then we'll do the same thing with HI and KJ. And then we are now ready to measure angles. So an angle from F to L to J, from J to L to G, etc. So you would just do this 8 times to get your angles. And I'm going to just stop there for time. You could continue to do that. And I just want to show you some fun things that students can do. They can color this. So for instance, once I can right click on the 127 degree and I can color that angle. Let's say I want it like blue, and I can put the opacity to be 100, and I can do that for all of my 127 angles. And so that's really fun to have students create in the way they want to. And so again, here's a finished product. Easy to create. There are lots of these in the applets that you can just click on, but I really enjoy having students create it themselves. So let's now just do a problem number 8. To do that, I can go back to 7. I can right click and click duplicate, and then I can slide that down. So that's a fun thing to know how to do. I'm going to double click on that and rewrite that to number 8. So this would be the last task that the students work on, and that's creating a GeoGebra person. And the GeoGebra person is supposed to allow me to get to know these students a little more. And I love this. One of the things, they have to do some constructions, and then they also have to know how to put in an image. So finding a file. So for instance, let's do something that I like. I want the students to show me something about their personalities, about what they like. And so like for me, I would put in this GeoGebra figure. Now note that it got stuck on this line, and that can happen. So you just undo it. So undo it is one way to solve the problem, and just put the image in again. So image, and then choose file, and then I will click on that computer again. Okay. And now it's by itself. And so then the students would create their picture. So for instance, here on the example is an example of a picture I drew, and you can do the freehand picture, like you can draw in stuff. You can put in objects like chocolate bar, of course, for me. And how to get there is when you go all the way down, you have this pen, and that's what you can draw with. And if you just go to the pointer, and now it still has properties and settings, so you can change the colors that you want that drawing to be. So again, some memorable moments. I get to know my students a little more. It's fun for all of us. And I have them save it. The 3 bars to the right, to the left side, go to save, and then make sure it's shared so that students can send me their link. And let's say we would say sample Q1 project. But I would have them write their names. And then once it's saved, then they can share the link with me in Canvas, or if you have another LMS, or have them send it to you in an email. I've also had students send it to their parents in emails, and that's really fun to do, so that I get to have this conversation with parents and the students. I want to show you an example of what one of my students did this year. So at the beginning of the year, they're doing this. I don't really know them. I find out that she likes chicken nuggets. I'm a fan of hers right now. And then got her cell phone in her hand, so I know she's social. She's got her Converse shoes, so she's athletic. So it's just fun for me to get to know kids a little more through that. Okay, so let's move on to the second quarter project, Euler Line project. And the Euler Line project, most students in a geometry class will create or figure out what an Euler line equation is. And we've had students in our district where they have to do this, find the Euler line, and that's one homework assignment for one night. We do it I do it in my classroom as a project. So they're learning other things. And then during the time that they're learning other material, they're working on this project on their own. Again, this is the second quarter project. Same rules apply. I'm their boss, and they are my employees. So if they have questions, they should ask other people first. They are working in groups, but they each do their own individual project. So let's review what an Euler line is. In any triangle, there are 3 perpendicular bisectors that can be constructed. They will always meet at a point called the circumcenter. In any triangle, there are also 3 medians that can be drawn, and those 3 medians will always meet at a point called the centroid. And in a triangle, there will always be 3 altitudes that can be drawn to the sides of a triangle, and where they meet is called the orthocenter. All those 3 points, the circumcenter, centroid, and orthocenter, are collinear. It does not matter what triangle you have. And so here's just an example of the solutions. Again, what is your philosophy? What is your goal as a teacher for your students? For me, I want them to review their algebra. I want them to write down formulas. So this is the expectation. Again, some teachers may just want the final answer, real quick explanations. Here's is a review of algebra, and we're reviewing and learning some new stuff with geometry, like the centroid formula. And then for the end of their project, they have to actually draw this on paper. I give them an 11-inch by 17-inch sheet of paper with a grid on it, and they have to draw it. So they're on their own for the most part, most students, unless they have a plan and they need some extra assistance, but they're on their own doing this. And then a couple of days before the project is due, I'll tell them, let's go to GeoGebra. We're going to take 15 minutes of our class and do the project in 15 minutes online. And I want you guys to save it, send it to me, and send it to your parents. And I said, you know what, we're going to just choose one student. Tell me who wants us to do their project for them right now. And usually I'll call the first person and okay, what group are you in? Okay, you're in group 1. So in this project, you can have an infinite number of points for this Euler Line project. However, we have just made in our school district 9 different versions, and so students can work together, but it should minimize the amount of cheating since we have 9 different versions out there. So let's say we're going to be working on group 1 right now. They know how to find a grid. This is new. We're going to show axes. And version 1, group 1, the first point A is -2, -1. So I'm going to go to point. So they are familiar with this. So I say, you guys just follow me right now. 15 minutes, do what I'm doing right now. and then you will do it with your group values, but I want us to just follow group 1. So we have A, B, and C is 4, 1. So this is just for one group that I have picked out. And so we have, and I'm still looking at some of the comments. So go ahead and you guys can graph those 3 points. Oh yeah, I'm reading some of your stuff, and yeah, maybe I'm going a little too fast for you guys. So if you can't follow, remember this will be recorded and in YouTube. I just want to show some fun, memorable experiences, but we can continue this later also. So I am going to segments, and I'm creating a segment for A to B, B to C, and C to A. Once I do that, I am going to make sure you're on the pointer, right click, and let's make this a really dark, let's do black and style. I'm going to make the opacity really dark, so 100, and line thickness, let's make it pretty thick. Let's go to 10. So line thickness, that's style. Again, I clicked, right clicked, I made sure I was on move, right click on the line segment. Line opacity is 100, line thickness is 10. And I'll do that with all 3 line segments. So line thickness is 10, line opacity is 100, and the color is black. So I'm just gonna make this real vivid. So black style, 100 opacity, and the line thickness is 10. While I'm over here, I'm going to right click or click on the points. I'm going to just color those black. So I'll keep the size as is, and I need to click on C, and you can either right click or go to the 3 vertical points or the snowman. And so we got color and black. So there we have it. And now we are going to go to more. So on the left side, we're going to go to more. Okay. And so, yeah, for you guys who have never used GeoGebra before, definitely check out the tutorials of starting with GeoGebra, because those are going to take you step by step on the initial amounts of GeoGebra. This is kind of like a little more advanced, but definitely go to those YouTube webinars, and those will be really helpful. And then you can go back to this webinar so that you can do some more stuff with your classes. So let's go ahead and construct the perpendicular bisectors of each of the segments. So I'm going to go to construct perpendicular bisector, and I'm going to click on line segment AB. And then we have, again, I'm on perpendicular bisector, line segment BC, and line segment AC. And now I'll go back to the pointer. I want to eventually find these midpoints. And so let's go ahead and go to the intersection. So we have to go all the way down on the tools to more. And so once you go all the way down to the tools on more points, I'm going to go to intersect. Okay, and so here we go. So we have intersect. I'm going to click on the perpendicular bisector and line segment AB, perpendicular bisector and line segment BC, perpendicular bisector and line segment AC. So we've just created our midpoints. And I also want to find out what this intersection point is. So I'm still in the points that intersect, and I'm going to just click on 2 of these perpendicular lines, and now I've just created the circumcenter. Go to the pointer, and then let's go ahead and color all those a color like red. So we'll go to settings, and we'll go to color, let's say red, and our style is going to be, let's say, the opacity is 100, and let's just keep the line thickness 5 is fine. So color, I'll do red, and style, let's go 100, and color is red, and line opacity 100. And we'll go to that point G, and we'll have that be, oopsies, I want to right click on G, the point size, and let's make that really thick and red. So what we've just done in 5 minutes is find all the perpendicular bisectors, and we can do find that circumcenter. And the students are like, oh, that's really fun to do. And so we'll do that with all of the next ones. So we want to find the medians. And so we would do the same idea here, finding the medians. And so I'm going to just go to my screens. And so you can see, whoopsies, I'm going to verify this. So I just want to show you what we are creating. We are creating this picture here. So let's go back and now do the medians. So the medians, we're going to do a line that goes from a point to the median, so the middle, the midpoint. So let's go from A to E, then line from B to F, and then line from point C to D. And now I'll go back to our move, and let's color all of those. Let's say blue. So settings, we'll go color blue. Doesn't matter what color you use. I'll have my style line opacity 100. And then I'll go here and again blue for all 3 of these. And then we'll have to figure out what that intersection point is. So here we go. And I'm done with those 3 lines, but now I'm going to make sure I'm in the pointer, and I'm going to click on 2 blue lines, and then I will want to find the intersection. So go back to points, intersect, and so we have blue and blue, and then you're going to right click on the, well, I want to go pointer, so right click on the H, settings, and our style will be, let's make this really thick, and let's make that blue. So we've just done now 2 parts of the Euler Line project. And for students, this would have taken them a long time by hand, but here using technology, it's really fun for them to see it visually. Last thing we have to do is construct the altitude. So we are going to go and write down, use construct on the left side, perpendicular line. So I'm going to click on perpendicular line. I'll go from point A to line segment BC, point B, line segment AC, and point C, line segment AB. I'm going to now right click on each of those lines to make the color vivid. How about green? And I'll make the line opacity pretty bold too. So on each of those lines, we'll do it green, and the opacity would be 100. And last thing we have to do here with the green is find that point of intersection. We want to find the orthocenter. So to find that, we're going to go back to points, intersect, green, and green, and we have our intersection point. Go back to pointer, right click, settings, and now we have our style, which is 9. Our color is green. So we are done with almost the entire project, and all we have to do is draw in the Euler line. So go to line and click on 2 of those 3 points, and that's the Euler line. I like to color it. So I went to the pointer, right click, settings, and let's just do the color like yellow. Now, when students are doing this, they can choose any colors they want. I'm going to make line thickness really big. That's it. The student who just raised their hand first and said, I want you to help me with this, are so excited. And I said, but wait a minute, it looks like yours, but how do you know if your equations are right? So let's go to the calculator, the algebra part. It tells us the description, but now let's go to the gear, the settings to the right. And when we go to the settings to the right, go to settings, and we are going to go to the algebra icon, and that allows us to change the algebra descriptions to definition and value. And now the students have all of the answers to the equations of lines, the points of intersection. This is your answer key. If you want more decimal places to show, you can go back to the icon to the right, the gear icon, and change the rounding, why not 3 decimal places? And so that makes them really excited. I said, you know what, you guys just did this whole project in 15 minutes virtually. How cool is that? And now you guys can save it. So go to save. This is going to be in your ePortfolio in GeoGebra. So this is my Euler line, and I would save it, and we're done. And then the other students say, but now I have to do mine. And I say, yeah, but like, okay, what group are you? And let's say one kid says, oh, I'm in group 4. And I'll say, well, what's C? And they shout out, let's say C is 7, -5. And they just start oohing and awing right now because they forgot this is a this is a dynamic math software. And so A on this part is 5, 1, and B is 1, -2. So now they have the answers over here to all of the parts of their project, so they can check it before they turn it in for their grade. It's just so fun to see their reactions. And this is very memorable because they really feel like they understand this concept well because they did it by hand first, and now they're actually doing it virtually. And then they get to share it with me, and sometimes I'll have them share it with their parents too. When I ask them to send the link, an email with the link of their, so they go to share and then send the link to me and to their parents in an email. I also tell them to say something positive about the project, whether they liked graphing it by hand or they liked the GeoGebra part, something positive, and then telling their parents to move points A, B, and C to show how cool this is and how, you know, there are some special some things going on. But that's just really fun for our students. Let's go now to back to our slides. And so our next thing is the Q3 project is the clinometer project. And I have a link to in the slides what this project is. And most geometry students will do some sort of clinometer project or some measuring of a height using trigonometry. And we use a clinometer, whether it's a string weight and a protractor, or if it's a clinometer app on your phone. It's still the idea of using some trigonometry to find heights. So this is, we have an attachment of the heights we ask our students to find. They first figure out the height in the classroom, and then we go on an in-school field trip to the field house hallway. And we do this because in during the trigonometry unit, it's winter, and so it's not wonderful to go outside. But if you are doing trigonometry during a warm weather area, that would be wonderful to have your students go outside. I have my students then check their work using a picture they import into GeoGebra. And I'll show you that there's a link here in my slides, but you can just watch what I'm doing here. And so I'll have the students take a picture, and they'll take a segment of their height. They'll take a segment of, oopsies, I don't want that, so undo, segment of the window. So from here, oopsies, I want here, all the way down to the floor. And then we can have GeoGebra measure those segments. So distance or length, measure distance or length. And I'm going to measure from C to D and then from E to F. And now this is just a exercise in ratios that they can, if they know the height of the person standing, they can easily figure out what that height is. So like we have 2.8 to 10.8 equals, like, let's say 65 inches to X, cross multiply, and you got your answer. So it's a great quick way to check your work. So anyways, that's what we do for a check for the clinometer project. If you have an indirect measurement, so you cannot have a person stand directly next to the object you're measuring, then you can use some trigonometry in your GeoGebra, which is really fun too. So last thing I want to talk about is our fourth quarter project, the Dartboard project. And this is actually in the MoMath webpage because it got an award through MoMath. It's a National Museum of Mathematics in New York City. And so this is where we have students creating a dartboard. And so I have students, and all of this again are in the slides. And so we have 22 different objects that they can choose from. They're going to choose 6 of them and then create their own dartboard. So I'll give them an 11-inch by 17-inch sheet of paper, and then they are going to create their own dartboard. So they'll do that by hand, and then they measure and figure out the area and the theoretical probability. I'd like to show you then what we do. Oopsies, not sure why that's, let's go here, and I will, let's see, we'll just go back here. Here is a picture of, they'll import their picture into GeoGebra, and I just want to show you what I tell the students. When you're finding theoretical probability, you're finding the area of an object, let's say this circle number 1, and you want to divide it by the area of the entire dartboard. And it doesn't matter where that circle is, that theoretical probability is that same ratio of the area of the circle divided by the area of the entire rectangle. So I have the students import their picture, and I'll show you, I want to move this here, and we're going to just create a random point generator. And let me explain why. We are going to, the students try to calculate it, an estimated probability by doing a just taking a marker and turning around and randomly hitting their dartboard. And it doesn't, they're really having a hard time with randomness. So I say, let's actually program. And so we have students do some programming, and this is all included in the slides. And oopsies, I want to undo that circle. And so I will show you guys how you can create a random point generator. Let's say we want 100 random points in here. Shout out to Steve Phelps for helping me learn how to do that. I asked him, I sent him an email asking me, how do you create a random point generator in GeoGebra? And within an hour, he sent me the code, and it was just fabulous. So let's go ahead and I'll just show you this. This is all in the attachment. And so you can, whether you have this board or not, I'm going to create a rectangle. And so I'm going to call it a polygon. And I want the rectangle to be dimensions of 11 by 17. So we're going to start with the 4 corners. So 0, 0, and then we have 0, 11, and then 17, 11, and then 17, 0. So we have created this rectangle, it's blue. And now I want to create a sequence. So we're going to say sequence, and then of a random point. So random points, and random point, and I'm just going to put random point and then in, and we want it in this figure. And this figure, GeoGebra called it Q1. So let's use that Q1. And then we want to close that parentheses, and we want to go from 1 to 100. And it has now created our 100 points, and we want it to randomize. And so now to randomize, we can create a button. So go to the GeoGebra, the geometry tools, and go all the way down to more. And so then scroll all the way down to the button. So find the button. And so we have the button. And yes, I'm seeing in the chat that you guys, a lot of you guys have heard and seen Steve Phelps in action. He is amazing. I'm going to write down random point generator. We're just calling this button whatever we want. I like to call it random point generator, and we want it to update construction. So every time we click on this button, it's going to create 100 different random points. So update construction, no spaces, and then open parentheses and close parentheses. And then press enter. And we have just created a random point generator. So let's go through those steps again. I pressed the OK button, and I pressed somewhere underneath the rectangle. And then once I press underneath the rectangle, we just wrote down random point generator and then that update construction. And now every time I click on it, it creates different points. Now, the point of this part of the project is to have students have positive experiences with coding. And during our virtual learning this April and May, I had students do this project while also working on the class curriculum. And in an end of the year survey that 68 students filled out, 15 of them responded that they are now considering maybe signing up for a computer science class. This is so satisfying, creating their own random point generator. It's a successful, positive coding experience. It does not take a lot of code. We just did 3 lines of code, and it was done. So we created our polygon, we created our sequence, and then we created the button. And you can extend this onto even more coding, like we have our students count the number of points in each object. You can actually have your students code that, which is really fun. Like for instance, if I create a circle that looks real similar to circle 1, and I'm just going to make it real obvious that that is a circle. So let me make that color different than the others. How about like a dark blue, and we'll just make that opacity a little bit and line color a little thicker. So here I've just created this circle. If I go to my algebra, I know that that's C. So I'm going to just now create a sequence. So sequence, and this is from, this coding help is from Tim Brzezinski. So thank you, Tim. Is in region, and then we have element parentheses. Now we have our first sequence is list 1. So we're going to put L1 and then comma I for each iteration, and we have close parentheses, comma, with respect to what object do we want? We want C, and then close parentheses. With respect to I, from 1 to 100. And so what we are creating right now is we want all of these points, the sequence of points in that region. And then we're going to have it count. So count if, and then we have our X equals true, comma, L2. Now L2, because that was our second sequence, press enter, and now it's just counted how many points are in circle 1. And so every time I press this random point generator, the counter over here changes. And so that is just another experience that students can have with coding. This last project is the key of this project. Again, we're going through each of these projects in like 10 minutes, 15 minutes in this session, but it is, a couple of hours for our students to be doing these projects. And here are some quotes from this project that I had my students during virtual learning. This project was surprisingly fun. The coding was super cool. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was really cool when the coding worked, and it's really fun to press the random point generator. And then I had one of my students who definitely does not want to go into a STEM field after doing this. She said pressing the random point generator is just really satisfying, and she's considering taking a computer coding class. So that's really fun with that. So at this point, I want you guys to fill out a last survey, and I'll make this bigger just so, and while you guys are filling out this survey, you can either just click on the link that is that will eventually be in the chat, or you can go to GeoGebra.org, click on classroom, and then type in the 8-letter code. And I will keep looking at your chat. Okay, so again, you guys can let me know what questions you guys have in the chat. And let's see. Oh, how can I cancel a wrong line that I accidentally did? And yeah, you can do the undo button on that. And let's see. Great. Okay, yeah, the button works for the sequence, which is just amazing. So hopefully you guys got something out of this. Again, keep chatting, and I can answer some questions that you guys have. Hope you've learned some good stuff in this. And again, I would highly recommend you guys going back to the YouTube channel that GeoGebra has and watch the webinars, and you can learn so much from the webinars. Go and rewind them, go back, try it, and you can pause them and then try it on your screen. It's hard to watch these webinars and do it at the same time if you just have one screen, and it's really helpful. Especially I learned with my e-learning time with my students this spring that many students really enjoyed having the videos so that they could pause and look over things. So thank you very much for participating. I look forward to reading your responses. And again, in the chat, feel free to ask any questions as well. So all of my resources are in this link, and it is available with all of our projects and some of the solutions, and feel free to contact me at any time as well. And that is in this link. It's at the top of this page with my email address. Hope you guys learned a lot and had some fun. Again, we do these a couple of hours for each project, so I just gave you a ton of information, but I just wanted to give you guys some information that you may or may not have seen in the same way that has been presented to you before, or how you've been doing it in your class. And yes, so GeoGebra can definitely be used in elementary school. So even like kindergartners can use GeoGebra, all the way up through mathematicians are using it. So there's a question in the chat that asks if an 8th grader or an 8th grade math class can use GeoGebra. Absolutely. A kindergartner can use it or a 1st grader, because you can just go simple with those students or go really advanced. So that can be helpful with algebra, as well as some elementary geometry items as well. And so question is with GeoGebra-based geometry, we have a textbook that we use for our predominant materials. However, we use GeoGebra all the time for supplementing. And so a lot of times I will take an applet that has been already made, like by Tim Brzezinski or by someone else, and I'll use that as an exploratory or a review of a concept for students, or I'll take that idea and tweak that for my own students' use and ask them questions. I am really excited about the GeoGebra classroom because now we can take those applets and ask students questions about those applets. So again, thank you very much for coming. Hope you guys got some good information on this. And again, I'm continuing to respond to whatever I see in the chat. I might have missed something. I'm sorry if I have. And yes, I gave you guys too much in an hour, but I wanted to find out, I wanted to give you more than too little. So hopefully that was helpful.